There are nights in television history that no one plans, moments that break through the script, silence the laughter, and remind everyone watching that even live entertainment has a heart. One such night belonged to The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson. It began like any other episode. The lights were bright, the band was swinging, and Johnny Carson was in his usual element, charming, sharp, and effortlessly funny. America tuned in by the millions, as they always did, expecting easy laughs and clever banter. But that night, the laughter would fall quiet, because something raw, human, and completely unscripted was about to unfold. The guest's name was Evelyn Rhodes. She wasn't a comedian, nor a celebrity. She was a well-known Broadway actress in her 50s, celebrated for her grace and humor. The show had invited her to promote a charity performance benefiting children with cancer. Evelyn had appeared on the show before she and Johnny shared easy chemistry. She could throw a witty remark back at him faster than most seasoned comedians. But on this particular night, as the cameras rolled and the audience leaned in, something in her demeanor felt different. Johnny introduced her with his usual warmth. "Our next guest," he said, "is one of my favorite people, a woman who lights up any stage she walks on. Please welcome Miss Evelyn Rhodes." The crowd applauded as Evelyn walked out, elegant as ever, her red dress catching the studio lights. She smiled, waved, and hugged Johnny before taking her seat. For the first few minutes, everything was perfectly normal. They joked about show business, about aging gracefully, about how she once tripped over a microphone cord during a live performance. The audience laughed, Johnny laughed, and Evelyn laughed too. But then Johnny, always the master of conversation, leaned in and said, "Now, Evelyn, I heard you've been working on something very close to your heart lately. Tell us about—" She nodded, took a breath, and said, "Yes, it's for the Children's Hope Fund. We've been visiting hospitals, putting on small plays for kids undergoing treatment. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, but also the most rewarding." Johnny smiled kindly. "That sounds wonderful." Evelyn hesitated just for a moment, and then her eyes glistened. "There's one little boy I met last month," she said softly. "He loved your show. He'd stay up past bedtime just to watch it with his dad. He told me he wanted to be a comedian like you one day." The studio fell silent, the kind of silence that comes when the world collectively leans closer. Evelyn tried to smile, but her voice began to tremble. "He passed away last week." Johnny's expression changed immediately. The audience shifted in their seats. He gently reached across the desk and said, "I'm so sorry." Evelyn nodded, tears forming. "I wasn't sure I should mention it, but his father asked me to thank you. He said your show gave them something to laugh about when laughter seemed impossible." For a moment, Johnny Carson, the man who had mastered every crowd, every awkward pause, every unexpected interruption, couldn't find his words. He blinked, swallowed, and looked down at his desk. The cameras stayed on him. The crew, uncertain whether to cut to commercial, froze. The audience held their breath. Evelyn's voice broke completely. "He was just 7, Johnny, and he made us promise to keep laughing, no matter what." Johnny stood up from his chair. The audience didn't know what to do. They had never seen him stand like that in the middle of an interview. He walked around the desk, approached Evelyn, and knelt beside her chair. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "You did the right thing bringing him up," he said softly. "You gave him a voice tonight." Tears streamed down Evelyn's face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to fall apart on your show." Johnny smiled faintly, shaking his head. "No need to apologize. This isn't about the show right now. This is about a little boy who mattered." The audience sat motionless, tears glistening in many eyes. Johnny turned toward the camera. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "we'll take a short break." But he didn't walk away immediately. He stayed right beside Evelyn as the lights dimmed and the commercials rolled. What viewers at home didn't see was that when the cameras cut, Johnny didn't head backstage or pick up his coffee mug like usual. He sat quietly with Evelyn, handing her a tissue and just listening. The studio crew, usually buzzing between segments, fell silent. When the show returned, Johnny was back at his desk, his demeanor softer, his voice lower. "Folks," he began, "sometimes life doesn't wait for commercial breaks. Tonight reminded me of that." He turned to Evelyn. "You've done something beautiful with your work. You brought laughter to children who needed it. And I think I can safely say, on behalf of everyone watching, thank you." Evelyn smiled weakly, nodding. "Thank you, Johnny." The band played a soft tune. No jokes followed, no quick transitions. The rest of the segment became a heartfelt conversation about kindness, loss, and the power of laughter. That night, NBC's switchboard received thousands of calls. Viewers across the country said they had never seen anything like it. One caller said, "I tuned in for comedy and ended up crying with strangers. Thank you for reminding us what matters." The next morning, newspapers described it as the night Johnny Carson stopped the show. Ratings soared, but no one cared about numbers that week. The story wasn't about fame, it was about humanity. A few days later, Johnny received a letter in the mail. It was from the boy's father, the same man Evelyn had mentioned. The letter read, "Mr. Carson, I watched your show that night. I can't tell you how much it meant to me and my wife. Our son would have been so proud to know that his story was shared and that it touched so many hearts. Thank you for treating his memory with such kindness. You made us feel less alone." Johnny read that letter quietly in his office and placed it in a small frame next to his Emmy. It stayed there for years. When asked about it later in an interview, he said, "That night reminded me that laughter isn't the opposite of tears, sometimes it's the bridge between them." In the months that followed, Carson quietly began supporting several children's hospitals. He never announced it on air, never took credit. He simply sent funds, toys, and handwritten notes that read, "Keep laughing, it's the best medicine." Years later, long after Johnny had retired, that episode was replayed as part of a special tribute. Viewers once again felt the same hush, the same chill, the same lump in the throat as they watched a woman cry on live television and a host choose compassion over comedy. It wasn't a viral clip or a trending moment. It was something far deeper, a reminder that even the man known for making the world laugh could pause and let silence speak. And when the final moments of that tribute aired, the screen showed a quote Johnny once kept on his desk. "Laughter and tears aren't enemies. They're proof that we're still alive." That was Johnny Carson's legacy. Not just the jokes, not just the fame, but the humanity that surfaced when the cameras were rolling and the world was watching. And maybe that's why, decades later, people still remember that night, not for the laughter it began with, but for the silence that followed. Because on that night, The Tonight Show stopped being just a late-night program. It became a lesson in empathy, live on air,